always been able to heal in helping others. So she started to write into this blog, and what started to happen, and she had seen a medium and was seeing a medium at first to kind of go through the regular questions, like, why did you do it? Why, could we have done anything to save your life? To then starting to ask questions about the universe, to ask questions about life, to ask questions about why are we here, all kinds of different topics. And so Elisa started to transcribe and share these topics. Well, blog members that were, reading and then started watching videos were expressing that they were having visits from Erik, and that they were having pranks played on them and all kinds of things. So it's just grown. And of course, now here we are so many years later, and it's grown into a huge community. And Erik brings in celebrities, and, we interview, and I'm one of the mediums along with some others as well. And it's just an absolutely incredible life. It's sometimes I pinch myself and think, am I really doing this? Is this really happening? But nothing has ever felt more right in my life that I do. Like nothing. I couldn't have picked this out for myself. It's just, it was the combination of what I experienced and the truth of who I was. And it just was like a discovery, and it just continues to grow. And it's amazing.
It's like a dream come true, without sounding too cliche, but you are living your truth.
And I am living my dream.
Yes,
I really am.
It is the real deal. It's you. And yeah. Erik is all I keep saying over and over in my head right now is it started with your letter to God.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, it started to manifest with your letter to God.
Yes, it really did.
How beautiful is that?
Yeah.
And you have experienced the yin and yang. You've experienced the absolute pit, and you experienced the truth, and you experienced a false existence as well.
Yes.
And now you're living your truth. Wow, it's beautiful. It's great.
It's amazing because Erik has shared with me, over the years, he shared with me, reasons why I did what I did, and of course helped me understand that it's always been my free will choice, that it's never been this kind of carrot dangled in front of me that I needed to meet. It's always been up to me, and that we do create our reality. But he says it's finding what you're aligned with. It's finding your truth, because we can't create something that's meant for someone else or somebody else's dream for us. It's to have the courage to be able to do what's truly in our heart, and to keep pushing ourselves through that, because he's always said to me, if it's in your mind, if it's in your imagination, if it's tucked away as this dream, it's not just a dream. It's there as an inspiration. So if you keep taking the steps every day, whether in your mind or in actions, it has to come true. It will come true. And he's been right. He's been right all along.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah.
You are so inspirational. Wow. I'm so blessed to have you talking to everybody here. Wow.
Thank you.
And Erik, would Erik like to speak to whoever will be listening to this wonderful podcast eventually? Would he like to talk? First of all, I love you, Erik, and I'm so grateful to have you here. You have been so good to me, even when I didn't even realize you were there.
He's blowing you a kiss again. He's giving you a big hug, and he says he's laughing about the about your charger, your piece.
Yeah. What?
Because that was him. There must have been something about yesterday that just wasn't going to work for us.
Get it?
And he said that it was much better aligned for both of us today.
Good.
He says there's a reason for everything, but he's first of all he's just wants to acknowledge everybody, and he wants to acknowledge a little bit of what I just finished off with saying there, because he says, it's so true that we all get caught up in life and in what we think life's idea is for us. we all get caught up in this, this is how I feel. And we start to put ourselves down because we're not maybe reaching that expectation that we have set out for ourselves, or that others that we feel have set out for us. And he says, your one and only job here on earth, your true and one and only job, is to be you. And he says it is to be you and embrace you exactly where you're at. Not wait to embrace yourself until you get that promotion, or until you reach that certain goal weight, or until you get to this whatever place that it is that you feel you should be, that is your idea of perfection. He says, but to truly embrace where you're at right now, because the only way that you're truly going to manifest the true path for yourself, and he says the true path is fulfillment. It's fulfillment in your heart. And the only way that you can do that is by accepting and embracing what is and who you are today. And he says, it's not an easy path. He goes, nobody says that life is easy. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that it is easy. But he says, what I am going to tell you is that it's a lot easier when you start to make choices that feel right for you, when you start to make decisions that feel right for you. So he says, don't be afraid to step outside of a box. And just because somebody else says to you, hey, that box isn't normal, hey, that box doesn't look right, you should stay in there because it's safe. He goes, no, if it feels right for you, then you keep pushing, because there's an awful lot of us on the side of spirit that are there to help you and there to support you.
Thank you, Erik. That is so genuine. Everybody who listens to this will truly appreciate that. Now, Erik, I've been dying to ask you this, because you're my bipolar comrade, and I am living here. I'm still standing. Yeah. And I'm always breaking into song. Yep. And it's been a real trip for me. And my daughter has given me real purpose, and I'm starting to live my truth as well. And I know I'm a mental health awareness advocate, and I'm here to help. So I'm cool with that. I'm living in the moment now. I want you to share, if you could, please, with my listeners, specifically my bipolar listeners, what is bipolar disorder from a spiritual perspective? What is it? Like, why does it exist? Is that too heavy?
No, he says it's not. He goes, but it's not really a one size fits all answer.
Got it.
Because he says, there are many different reasons why a person may have that label. He does that in quotations.
Yep.
Why they may have that label. But he says, why? He goes, let's look at it as if, because he says that this is a contract for you. This is something that you came into this life to experience, to be able to walk through and to be able to balance. And he says, and this has to do with acceptance of the self. This has to do with acceptance of all parts of the self and out of expectation. And he says that's part of why he was speaking a moment ago about expectation, because he says society has an idea and an expectation of how we are to be, of how we are to operate. And he says with any mental illness, he says there are different degrees as to why it's there, but there's also a label that gets put on it that creates this idea for somebody, like a box that they are fit into. And he says that's not necessarily true, because he says many people that are diagnosed, and again, he says with the label of bipolar, are actually quite powerful in certain areas of their life, whether it be in creativity or whether it be in music. He says there's different balance or perspectives that are part of that person. And when that becomes pressurized by society's idea of how we are to operate, and when he says this, he says he's even bringing up like sleep, emotions. He says there's a suppression of emotions. He says bipolar in particular, he says that there's it's like a balance that has being projected onto the person who has bipolar as being something that's wrong. And he says, so, ideally it's about the acceptance of yourself, the acceptance of what your own rejuvenation and grounding looks like without being able to fit into a category that has been projected upon you. But he says there's so many different layers to how we could understand this for each individual, because there's also karmic lessons between families. There's also karmic lessons in relationships, whether it's mirroring something to help heal in a family. It's not always the person that enters with bipolar that is particularly the one that's experiencing it for the main lesson, but very much those that are around them that are experiencing it as well. He also says there are many people that are listening to this right now that feel that they are in a cycle that may not ever get better, in a cycle that they may not feel what they think normalcy is. And he says, I encourage you to find what it is that you feel that you're suppressing within yourself, and to feel free enough to be able to let that out. Because he says that there's a lot, and he says mental illness in general has a lot of suppression to it. It's like trying to keep people small, that maybe their actual balance is very different than, say, somebody they consider neurotypical.
Wow, that's stunning and so important. It is. And so one word that I think is really important right here is, for those of you who are listening who have a bipolar in quotes diagnosis, acceptance. I teach that too. Like, I'm trying to teach that with my old fast method. You have to just hold it, own it, accept it, accept who you are, accept the illness. It is not the bane of your existence. It is a gift.
Yes.
It is a gift.
Yes.
And you can move forward with the gift.
Yes.
Erik is moving forward with his gift on the other side, on a huge platform, to help everyone here understand it's okay. It's okay. Yes.
And he says, and that's the best part, is he says, because he's like wiping away labels, and he says, labels became what they were for people to navigate, to understand something, to be able to identify something. But he says, let the label be the label, but don't live under the label. Because just because you've been given a label or a diagnosis, he goes, that's one thing, but you are not that diagnosis. But he says, take a look at what is extraordinary about you, because he says every single one of you, no matter what you have as a diagnosis, have something extraordinary about you. And so he says, take the time. When he says about suppression, he goes, don't suppress what's extraordinary about you, because when you accept and you begin to let out your truth of what that is, he says that's where you start to develop real miracles in your life.
What a gift. Thank you, Erik. Thank you so much. Thank you, Michelle, for that.
Welcome. He says anytime.
I love you, kid. Oh, wow. The only thing I'm concerned about, like, I want to keep talking and talking, but you have somewhere you have to be.
I do.
The top
yes.
Of the can we continue this sometime, Michelle?
Yes.
Because I really want to venture into what you do. I'm going to put every link in the world
perfect
up so people could just seek you out. But you are just an exceptional human being, and you are the bee's nuts, as I like to say, as opposed to the bee's knees, which is really unusual to picture the poor bee trying to fly. I'm sure Erik likes that one too. It's a good image. Poor thing, poor bee. He can fly anyway. Come on, bee.
Oh my God, you're hilarious. Yes.
I'm just nuts. That's all. No pun
No,
intended.
I think a part two, it would be awesome. Would be
Yeah.
awesome.